Welcome to another episode of Potion Sword Run. I'm Original Seed, and today we're going to be talking to you about Sony PlayStation. Good news, finally coming out the internets, man. We're going to talk about the rumors that Sony might be buying Warner Brother Games, and the great news that PlayStation 5s are finally making it out to Japanese influencers. And the big old brouhaha that's brewing between Spiderman being remodeled for the next generation. Now, before we get too excited about the Warner Brother Games studios being bought out by Sony rumor, it's coming from Michael Patcher. Now, I stopped believing in that guy last generation. He would come up with so much BS that it wasn't even worth repeating what he was saying. But it's been a while, and since there isn't really any PlayStation news out there, I figured I might as well report on it. So Michael Patcher, an industry analyst, says that Sony is in a great position to buy Warner Brother Games. Now, I don't understand what this great position is he's talking about, because if anybody's in a great position, it's gonna be Microsoft. Even with that $7 billion they spent, they still have way more buku money up in the pipelines they can just get rid of. So how Michael Patcher believes that Sony's in a better position than Microsoft, I do not know. But let's get into it. And I quote,
I do think Sony's in a good position to buy Warner Brothers Interactive assets should they ever go on sale again, depending on whether AT&T chooses to sell it to them, and how. If they just want to license their IP out, they will probably not go with exclusive deals, because they won't want any games limited to just one platform. But if they sell perpetual rights to Batman or Mortal Kombat, I think those assets would be pretty cool for Sony to fold up in their lineup. They already did it with Spiderman, so we know they would be interested in something like that. I really hadn't considered this scenario, since we heard Warner Brothers was off the table. But now that Bethesda just got bought out for $7.5 billion, you have to think that AT&T are thinking, could we get $7 billion?
okay, now there was a lot to unpack there. First of all, saying that if AT&T is inclined to sell Warner Brother Games or any of their studios, any of their properties, Sony doesn't have $7 billion just to buy Warner Brothers Studios outright. They don't have that money. Now, he's not saying that Sony can afford $7 billion for the whole studio, but he's saying that maybe, just maybe, that Warner Brothers would like to sell them exclusive rights to certain characters, or maybe just sell them the games outright. Not the whole studios, but just the game, like Mortal Kombat, or let's say Batman. Now, I don't see that happening. So then he says that maybe they'll just buy studios, maybe they'll just buy exclusive games. But I mean, why wouldn't Microsoft just do that? Why wouldn't they give those offers to Microsoft? Because you know they're willing to pay more than Sony can afford. If Warner Brothers goes out and says, hey, we have Batman for sale, here it is. You really think they're going to give it to Sony at a discount when Microsoft can just come in and swoop? Doesn't quite make sense to me. But still, the rumors are out there, and if you want to believe Michael, that's up to you. I wouldn't do it. He's been wrong so many times. I don't understand how this guy still makes money doing this, if that's what he actually makes money doing, because good God. And then he goes on to talk about Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy, and how if Sony were to buy those studios, those games, it wouldn't be much of an impact because no one's interested in Metal Gear Solid without Kojima. And supposedly Final Fantasies take way too long to come out, so what's the point in that? And I guess you gotta give it to me, might have a point there. I mean, Metal Gear Solid is a big franchise, but is it really Metal Gear Solid without Kojima? I don't know. As far as Final Fantasy goes, I mean, they've always been on PlayStation consoles first, at least for a limited amount of time. So them being exclusive to the max, I mean, I don't really think that will push the needle. I'm sure it's gonna sell a few consoles, but it isn't gonna necessarily keep people from buying Xbox, especially if they're interested in Xbox to begin with. Final Fantasy isn't gonna do it. But let's just say that for some miracle, Sony does buy Warner Brothers games or some of their franchises. I think that would be a great move from Sony. I mean, they have to make up studios, they have to make up games, especially since Microsoft bought Bethesda. But I don't see that happening. But I guess we'll wait and see. But even if that doesn't come true, there are some good news coming out for the PlayStation out of Japan. And that is that the PlayStation 5 is quiet when running. Yes, no longer will it be a jet engine. No longer will a train be running through your living room. That has always been a problem with PlayStation consoles. They have always been loud. The PlayStation 3 was crazy. It actually got in the way of me playing my games. It got in the way of the music. The noise was just too much. It felt like a heater was just going on. And speaking of heat, also good news. The PlayStation 5 seems to be running relatively cool after 2 hours of usage, which is great news, I guess, to keep the fan noise down and just to keep your system running at full capacity. So that's other great news from PlayStation. I look forward to having a silent game machine next to my Xbox One, since I don't have an Xbox Series X yet. And now I'm gonna leave you with the brouhaha of last week. I didn't want to get into it because I didn't think it was a big deal. Spiderman has a new character model for the PlayStation 5 version. The PlayStation 4 versions look like James Franco's little brother. The latest one looks like the Spider-Man that we know now. And the reason why I wasn't going to talk about this was because I didn't see the big deal about it. I mean, they have their excuses, and if you want to read them, that's fine. It doesn't really matter. Talking about character models, talking about mode capture and all that stuff, whatever. The bottom line is they changed the character model. But the reaction from the fans was crazy. Literally crazy, to the point where they start sending death threats to the developers. What is wrong with you guys? These are video games. Pixels, polygons, man. We're supposed to have fun, not send each other death threats. You gotta look at the positive. You gotta look at the bright side. All of those fans who happen to have the PlayStation 4 version, you guys have a collector's edition. You guys have a limited edition. No longer will they be making Spider-Mans with that busted ass character. So look at the bright side, man. You have a collector's edition. And the same goes for all these different games that they end up changing for different reasons. Who cares if they want to cover up some cleavage on the next generation games? You have a collector's edition if you have the old one. But no, people just want to get mad to get mad to get mad. And if that's what I can expect from the PlayStation community, good God, I don't know what the hell I jumped into. If you have the PlayStation 4 version, enjoy it for what it is. If you're going to buy the PlayStation 5 version, then enjoy that for what it is too. Simple as that. If a character model is really going to mess up your enjoyment in a video game, then maybe video games shouldn't be your hobby to begin with. That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, when shit hits the fan and you start hearing rumors from Michael Patcher that Sony's going to start buying exclusive rights to studios such as Warner Brothers Games, run.